Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's Technique Tuesday. Just in case this is your first Technique Tuesday, my name is Ali Board and I do these broadcasts as often as I can on a Tuesday live from Down in Farm Studio. And you might be watching live on Facebook. You might also be watching on catch up via my website learningtopaint.co.uk, or you might be watching via my YouTube channel. No matter how you are watching today, you are all very welcome indeed. Now, I try very hard to give anybody that is tuning in live via the Facebook page a bit of a shout out. And I think at the moment, with the current situation, it is more important than ever before to make sure that we are all okay. So let's give you all a bit of a shout out. Who was first in the room? Unsurprisingly, it was Martina. Good morning, lovely. Martina is wishing everybody a happy and safe Christmas, and I couldn't agree with you more, Martina. Joe is in the room. Joanna, Shani, good morning. Julie over there in Melbourne, good evening, I think, probably morning. Pam is saying season's greetings. Thank you very much, lovely. Michelle, good morning. Patricia, what's she saying? Good morning to everyone and Merry Christmas. Early, I know, but I may forget later, and having been enthralled by the painting. Well, that's a lot to live up to be enthralled, isn't it, Patricia? Kathy, good morning. Jane, Rosie is saying bonjour. If you don't know, Rosie's in France, unless she got very exotic all of a sudden. Anne B, Lynn over there in the United States, good morning. Alison is saying, very intrigued by your top this morning. Is it reindeer in the pockets? Happy morning, everybody. I did wonder about that. I didn't think this outfit through. I'll show it to you in a minute. What else is lots of people saying good morning to each other. Yes, this I guarantee you, good morning, Dee, that this looks a bit peculiar because it is the I'm going to push my chair back. I don't often do this, but I'm just going to push my chair back because my top will make more sense. So look, it's got reindeer all the way around the bottom. Look, it's just that you've got kind of reindeer bottoms on the shoulders, which is all very odd, isn't it? But there we go. Who else have we got in the room? Helen, good morning. Oh, I didn't expect to do that of a morning. Thank you very much for tuning in, no matter how you are tuning in. This is the last Technique Tuesday of 2021. And Dee, you're absolutely correct. This is the last Technique Tuesday of 2021. What a year it has been. And a huge thanks to you all for all your support and for being there for each other and for continuing to find the things that I paint and I share with you interesting. I was having a bit of a look back over Technique Tuesdays because I got a bit sort of nostalgic and sentimental over everything that we've done over the year, and it's been quite a whirlwind of stuff, hasn't it? So it's been some things that have been for you guys. It's been some things that have been for me as an artist. But no matter what it is, I think we've explored new boundaries, and that is definitely true of today's project. Lots of people liking my top, bless you. So this is the last part of my Inspired by the Royal Opera House project. So let's go straight to the overhead camera and let's show you where we got to with this. So this is my gold leaf, acrylic, all sorts of things on there. If you want to see this project in more detail, if you want to kind of revisit it and go back to what I did and how I did it, then you can go back over to the blog. You just need to go to my website, www.learningtopaint.co.uk, and you'll be able to catch up with every part of this process. We started off with the gold leaf. Then we pushed some acrylic through some stencils to get this kind of lovely textural element. Last week, we all got a little bit dramatic, didn't we? Because I painted in the border, which I'm really pleased with now, and I put the darks all around the edge to kind of give it that fantastic depth of colour, to make sure that we had the lights as well as the darks all of those types of things going on. So if you haven't had the chance to catch up with that, like I said, go back, watch the previous incarnations of this, and you'll be able to catch up with it. So today, there's a little bit of finishing off that's got to go on, and I need to paint the bauble, and I need to do the last little bits of detail. Now, you might notice that a little drawing has appeared, which wasn't there last week. While I was sitting here waiting for the broadcast to go live, which I do at about 1:45, just in case there's an issue with the technology, I suddenly realised that my bauble shape was a little bit pitiful. So I've sort of reclaimed parts of it, but it was only for me to be able to see where the sphere was, where the circle is, those kind of things. So I promise you I didn't sort of skip ahead a load of processes. All I did was go back in with the pen and I redrew elements of the bauble which I just couldn't see. Who have I missed saying good morning to? Barbara, good morning. Jilly, good morning. Anita, good morning, lovely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit more detail so that you can see this in a bit more close up. There we go. And the menu for today is painting in this bauble, making sure that we get a nice kind of rich red colour on it, and then finishing off. So I'm going to pop that over to one side temporarily, and I'm going to grab my tear off palette. So just for those of you who are interested in the materials that I use, this is the Frisk tear off palette. This you can get from the SAA. And in previous blog posts, you will find links to these products if you don't want to go searching the internet for them. And all it is like a pad of paper, but it's got a nice glossy surface so that I can mix my colours. And what I need to do is, this is going to be red. Don't forget, right back at the beginning, we had our colour palette, didn't we? We had the gold and we had this kind of lovely duck egg blue colour, which was from the ceiling in the Royal Opera House. But from my trip around Covent Garden, where I was taking lots of photos of Christmas decorations, that's where the red is going to come from. So I need to mix up a couple of reds. I need a bright red that I can use for my highlights. So this is Daler-Rowney System 3 acrylic paint, and this is Vermilion. So we'll have a little bit of that. I don't need an awful lot because this is not a big space to fill. I've also got a little bit of crimson, which is a delicious colour. Look at that, how lovely. And then I'm going to need to make some darks. Now I could use black, but I think I'll use a combination of Prussian blue and black. And if you're not sure why that's the thing, you need to watch last week's when I mixed up my dark for that. And I've got a bit of Mars black. Again, not going to need an awful lot of these colours. I don't want it to be very thin and very runny. I want there to be quite a considerably bold colour on my bauble. But it's the Goldilocks Principle. I talk about the Goldilocks Principle all the time, don't I? I don't want it too thin. I don't want it too thick. I want it just right. Now, this is Zinc mixing white. So this is in order for you to make paler colours out of your palette rather than pastel colours out of your palette. I'm not using it as a white on its own. All I want to do is to make paler versions of my red. So let's pop a little bit. I haven't organised my palette at all today. I've basically just lumped it on. I should have really put them in a circle, shouldn't I? But I wasn't thinking. So those are going over there for you to see. Let's just mix up a few colours ready. I've got 2 or 3 brushes here today. I've got my favourites, which you know by now are my SAA acrylic and oil brushes. These are the long handled ones with the red ends. And I've got a flat one, which is a size 6. And I've got 2 rounds. I've got a 4 and a 0. Now, it's interesting. We talk about brush sizes all the time in my classes. And this is absolute proof that sizes of brush are relative to the range that they're in. Because that size 0 is kind of more like a 2 or even a 4 in watercolour brush sizes. So just because it says 0 on the handle does not mean that, it's a 0 across ranges of brushes. Morning, Sally. She's put, morning everyone. Gosh, there's a bauble already. I cheated, Sally. I did it off camera. So those are the brushes that I'm going to use. But the first thing I'm going to do, I've been saying don't mix it with your bristles, but I'm going to do it that way today because I need to crack on with this. Right, let's start with the pale colour. So I've got Vermilion. Now, Vermilion is a sort of semi-transparent colour. So whilst that would be nice for showing the gold through, I'm probably going to need some paler versions of it too. But we're going to start with that one. Oh, I've got a rotary pencil sharpener to my right, and I've just painted it red by flicking colour at it. That's no good, is it? So I'm going to paint this on to start with to act as a base coat to reclaim the shape of my bauble. It's going to be very scrappy, but it will be okay. It will be just a means to an end for getting the shape correct on this. So let's get that in. It kind of smushes about on the gold leaf. It's a very odd surface to paint on, it has to be said. Now you can see there where my original pencil line was, and it's not covering, which is part of the semi-transparent properties of this. I'm going to have to turn it around. I can't do it. Can't do it all the right way up. I have to push it upwards. There we go. But with all the other things that I've got to do to this bauble, it's not going to matter. And I'm going to need to dry it in between each layer to make sure that I get nice coverage. So the red is shining through, but look at that. It's really starting to stand out now. And I can already see, I wish you could see sometimes the balancing act that I do with all the stuff around. It's because it wouldn't matter how big a broadcasting station I had, I would just fill it. It's just the way my brain works. So I'm going to need to push this colour out to the edges a little bit more. It's not quite the circle that I wanted. It's a little bit flat. Let's have a look at that. Is that better? I'll tell you what, let's give it a dry and we'll see if that is better or worse when it's dry. Lots of people are saying that they're hoping to get art materials for Christmas. That's very exciting. And what's Patricia saying? She's just saying that she's just taken delivery of a huge box of something from her son, and she's very much hoping it's art materials. Joe C is in the room. Good morning, lovely. Here we go. And Michelle is saying that Santa will be spending a lot of time in the art stores collecting stuff for us. Yes, you're absolutely right. And if you either don't have anybody to buy art materials for you, or your family haven't taken notice of any of the hints that you've dropped about art materials, then do you know what? Go and treat yourself. Go out and spend some of your money on something that is going to help you to feel more creative into the new year. I think that's as good an excuse as any. Right, I'm pushing this shape out to the side now. That's better. That's more bauble-like. And let's give it a little bit of extra colour. I'm going to need to add some water to this. I've made it very warm in the studio today because it was freezing when I came down this morning. And actually now it's so warm in the studio that my paint is drying very, very rapidly. So we need to do something about that. Right, let's give it a dry. Let's give it a dry. Lots of people liking my idea for treating yourselves. I think it's very, very important. Michelle is saying, do we need an excuse? Probably not, Michelle, but Christmas is as good an excuse as any, isn't it? Or equally, you can blame it all on me and you can say, well, Ali told me I needed this, so I must go and get it. I'm very good. My shoulders are broad. Dear. Now, Ali is saying, am I the only bar humbug person here? We, as a family, have agreed absolutely no presents for the adults. It depends on your situation, I think, Ali, doesn't it? I think if you want to concentrate on purchasing presents for the younger people in your lives, I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. You've just got to call it as you see it. Bees and I do quite like spoiling each other at Christmas, although we kind of spoil each other all year round. But you just got to call it as you see it. Now, what I've done is I've mixed a little bit of zinc white in with my red because I want to start getting some highlights down. So on the left-hand side, I've got a little highlight going in there, so slightly pinkier tone. And I'm going to dip my brush back into the white and add a little slightly paler tone in there too. I've got to do some more work to that, but that's okay. And let's add a slightly paler version on the top too. What we're trying to do now is to think about the three-dimensional qualities of our bauble, understanding where the lights and the darks need to be. No good making it very, very flat. It's not going to look realistic. So I'm going to get a kind of highlight in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my brush out, give it a really good swish about, and then clean it on my piece of paper to feather out the edges of that highlight, just a very light dusting. Now, yes, I could have used a acrylic dryer that slows down the drying time, but I knew that I was going to need to build this up in layers, so it's a little bit pointless having something that slows down the drying time when I'm layering up colour and drying it like this. So let's give it another dry. Now that's really interesting. That's flattened back quite a lot. So I think I need to up my game a little bit and only mix a tiny touch of red in with the white to get a paler version. So, do you know what? I still don't think that's pale enough. Let's pop a little more of the zinc mixing white in with that. And let's get that in. So that's better. Why didn't I do that before? Because it's live, Ali, and you can't foresee everything. So there we go. That's a brighter light. Washing my brush out again, taking the excess off on the paper and feathering out the edges of that. Nowhere near finished yet, folks. Nowhere near finished yet. So we've got, you know me and my love of putting extreme darks in. We've got all those darks to do yet. But over here, I'm going to continue to work on that nice kind of bright highlight. Brush goes back into the water, take off the excess, feather out those edges. Now, here's a handy little hint. You know me and shoving my finger back in things. Because the brush is likely to make too many brushy kind of marks, I'm using my finger to tap back in to get a nice kind of soft, diffused effect on that white. And then you've got a nice shine. Now, there's some very dodgy things going on over this side, but we'll dry it off and we'll see where we get to. It's coming together. It's really coming together now. Marvellous. Right, let's go in with a little bit of crimson. So the crimson on its own, just to start with, that also is a semi-transparent, semi-opaque, depending on how you look at it. But I want a deeper, richer red going through, not all over, just in places. So let's get it in that side and do a little bit of feathering and dotting. Ooh, I don't like that brush mark at all. Let's get rid of that. That's better. Let's make it a little bit richer up here at the top and get that colour in. That's pretty good. And then let's load that brush up. This is nowhere near as dark as I want it to be at the base, but it's getting there. So let's turn it upside down because I can't paint upside down. And let's get rid of that horrible dark mark that I really don't like over on that side. So let's tap that in and start blending the colour in. So you can see how I'm building that up in layers starting to come together now. Why do I get all sing-songy when I get excited about things? What's that all about? Right, I'm using the tip, just the ends of the bristles now to give it, it's not because I want it to have a texture necessarily, but I want to start getting a more definite blend between some of the pale areas that I've got in and where I'm starting to build up the darks. Now, because this is a flat brush, if I make a repetitive mark like this, I'm going to end up with lines. So you can probably see that I'm turning it with my fingertips all the time. Getting there, that's getting better. Looking more three-dimensional. Still something very dodgy going on over here, but let's give it a dry. See where we get to. Rosemary, good morning. Rosemary's saying that she's sorry she's late. She has an 18-month-old toddler staying. Well, yes, that would take up your time, Rosemary. I can see that. So let's get that in. If you were doing this yourself, you'd spend a lot more time drying it. Now, into my crimson, I want to make a nice dark. So let's just whip the palette out so that you can see what I'm doing. Oh, look, it looks like a face. Let's get, so a bit of crimson. Anne is saying, you could stand on your head to paint upside down. Looking good, Ali. Thank you, Anne. That's very kind. So a bit of the black, but because that will make it a little bit flat as a colour, a touch of the good old Prussian blue in there as well. Give it a good old mix. So a nice deep red, but it isn't a flat red. It's not sort of just black. Oh, look, I can't sort my workspace out. And then this, I need to start working on the shadow down here at the bottom. So let's load a bit of colour into that shape. And then let's try this little tapping technique as well. We're going to double it up, actually. We're going to do the feathering with the end of our brush and then the tapping with our finger to get it blended in. That's better. That's better. Right. Colour going in, making sure it's right up to the line. Tapping it in to get it a bit more blended. And then using good old finger poke to get it blended into the rest of it. Let's move it around. I'm probably not going to spend a huge amount of time on this today because you've all got Christmassy things to be going and doing, I'm sure, or movies to be watching or books to reading or whatever it is you do of a Tuesday. And I'm sure that I will prop this up in the studio somewhere in the next few days and have a look at it and see something else that needs doing with it. But for the purposes of completing the project and getting it to look nice and realistic, this will be fine. So I'm going to continue to add that little bit of shadow just up on one side because we need it to look spherical. We need it to look spherical. There's still a bit of a dodgy old area coming on the right hand side. What's that all about? It's getting there. It's getting there. Let's give it a dry. The answer is always give it a dry, and then you've got something to work with. So we'll get that in. Oh, let's bump it up a bit and give it a really good dry. That's better. There we go. So, oh, aren't you all lovely saying that you don't mind how long I spend on this? That's getting better now. Much, much better. And hopefully starting to look three-dimensional. But the highlights still aren't bright enough. They're still not quite as poppy as I would like them to be. So I'm giving my brush a really, really good wash over on one side. And then making sure that I've got all, we've talked about this before, haven't we? Knocking all the water out of these brushes so that you are in control of the paint. And I'm going to go back to, do you know what? I'm going to introduce a little bit of titanium white because that zinc white isn't as zingy as I would like it to be. So I'm going to take a little bit of the titanium white. I'm not going to use my flat brush. I'm going to use my round number 6 brush. Let's just wet it first so that there's some moisture in the bristles, but we don't want it too wet. And then let's get that number 6 brush into the titanium white, and let's start popping some extreme highlights in. Oh, that's a bit warm. Never mind. Over here. So let's start putting a bit of an extreme highlight over here on the left hand side. So, and I can use the tip now to smudge it in a little bit more. That's better. So we've got that kind of little ping of light. I'm not going for sort of shiny reflection. Otherwise, I'd from the photograph that I took, I would have to be painting my own reflection in there too, and we don't want that. I wonder if that. Yeah, I've got an idea. Look at that. When their finger comes out, that's when you know I've got an idea. Oh, Rosie, that's a stunning idea with, yeah, something metallic over the top. That would be good, wouldn't it? You could, yeah, a little bit of Pearlex or something maybe at the end. It's not what necessarily I am going to do today, but I think that's a grand idea if you're having a go at this at home. So I popped that little bit of white in there, taking off the excess. Michelle is saying that she loves a bit of bling. Now I'm with you, except I have got quite a bit of bling going on, haven't I? And I think that's potentially part of the problem, is that this doesn't necessarily look as bright and as shimmery as it could be, because it's backed by gold, for goodness sake. Right, I that kind of works for me. The only one more thing I've got to do is I want to just put a highlight down the left hand side even. So I'm going to reclaim a little bit of this down here. I could be doing this with a pen, which if I'd have thought about it long enough and hard enough, I'd have probably worked out. But I can see something that I can do about this. The issue that I'm having is actually over on this side, but I can absolutely see what's wrong with that. So we'll put that little highlight, that little kind of curve of light in on that side. Let's just knock it back a little bit. There we go. But the issue is here, look. I've got an evenness of tone here, which is why my highlight isn't showing up. So what I need to do is to make my background darker. So I'm going to take some of the Mars Black and the Prussian blue. I know I had violet in it before as well, but for the amount that I need to do, this will be okay. And then just with a real kind of washy quality over the top of those leaves, if I deepen that shadow in on that side, I am very much hoping that that kind of highlight will then start to stand out. Let's have a look. Yes, look at that. Made all the difference. Isn't that funny? Sometimes it isn't about the shape that you're painting. It's about what's in front of it or what's behind it, all of those types of things. Now I can also do that. I can cheat a little bit. I've got a tiny bit of a mismatch down here. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of titanium white, only a tiny bit of titanium white, and pop it at the bottom. Lynn is asking a very pertinent question about what do I plan on doing with this painting. Lynn, not a Scooby-Doo, haven't got a clue about what it is that I'm going to be doing with this painting. Perhaps it will be next year's Christmas card. Who knows? Perhaps my lovely printers, love from the artist, will want to get their hands on it and use it. I have no idea. Right, there is a bauble. It's not the tidiest of forms, but actually for the purposes of the demonstration, it's fine. Right, but I need to do the cap. Now, I could have painted this in, but I'm not going to paint this in because that way madness lies, trying to get it this small. So back to my good old Posca pens. Why have I gone for Posca pens? Because this is effectively acrylic paint in a pen form. And I could work my way all the way around this, and it will kind of fit in with the materials that I've been using. Now, this is a gold. Now, in my experience, the gold doesn't show up as being particularly gold, but I'm not overly sad about that because I don't really want to interfere with the gold leaf that's going on in the background. All I want to do to start with on this cap is to get rid of the blue, because that's all I'm attempting to do at the moment. I also need to get rid of some of my really scrappy pen lines. So I'm using this pen to kind of reclaim bits of the colour. And then hopefully the kind of the cap that you get on baubles, I'm sure it's probably got a proper name, but I don't know what it is. Cap will do. Will look like it's ahead of the background. That's better. And it'll look like it's sort of attached to the bauble. The thing I'm not best pleased about is the fact that I've now got a bit of a black, where I used a black pen to draw back in, I've now got a bit of a black outline all the way round. Am I being overly picky? Probably is the answer, but never mind. That's what I'm here for, isn't it? To be overly picky. So we'll get that in. That's looking better, but I need to dry that. Let's get this in, get it dry. So, is that dry? Let's have, oh dear, made me gold leaf bubble up. Shani will be crying, won't she? Let's just, yeah, that's pretty sticky and pretty warm now. So I'm just going to waft it about a little bit because I really don't want to paint back into it when it's warm. Otherwise, I will be in trouble. Actually, while that's drying, I've also noticed that one of the things that's not particularly working in terms of it being three-dimensional is there's not enough highlight up here at the top. That highlight, I haven't made it creep up high enough. So let's pop a little bit of, oh, that's watery. Didn't want it that watery. Let's pop a little bit of extra highlight in at the top so we get that shine, so the kind of light is coming down that way. So let's lighten that part of the red in, see if that makes a difference for its slightly three-dimensional qualities. Yes, that's a bit better. I wonder if some of the red will go on. Let me just test something out while you're all here. You've not got anything else to do, have you? Yes, let's pop a little bit of that Vermilion over the top. That's interesting. I didn't think that was going to cover because it's semi-transparent, but clearly it does. How marvellous. And then let's get that tapped in. In photorealistic painting terms, you could be doing this for hours. Hours and hours and hours. But we're not going to. She said, adding just a tiny touch more. There we go. Let's get that in. That's better. Okay. Yeah, it's getting good. This, it just doesn't look good at all, though, at the moment. What I am going to do is give it another coat of Posca pen to make absolutely sure that I have knocked back that blue. I don't want that blue to be coming through. I don't want it to look like it's sort of see-through. I need to make that shape a bit rounder at the top, and there are some other things I need to do to that. That's better. Covering over, much better now. Let's give everything a dry again. Okie dokie. Now, I was going to work back in with a black Posca pen to put some of my shadows in, but I don't think my black Posca pen is going to be fine enough or controllable enough. So I'm actually going to use my Unipin pen, which is a go-to pen that I have all the time for this kind of linear work. Oh, yeah, it's kind of cool enough now. So, what do I need to do? I don't want to be putting a line around it. What I do need to do is to understand these shapes at the bottom a little bit more. And what I'm going to do, rather than round them off, I'm going to sharpen them up a little bit. Let's get zoomed right in for you so that you can see it in a bit more detail. There we go, that's better. Let's recenter that. So we're working with a tiny touch of pen to make these gold shapes. We're sort of working negatively, if you like. Let's get up. I think these need to be a bit taller, actually. A little bit taller. Let's get those sharpened in. And actually, I can use this pen with a slightly kind of dotting fashion to bring that shadow that's kind of cast from the cap down into the colour of the bauble a little bit more, so that it looks a touch more realistic. Again, you can use your finger to soften some of those shapes. Let's get that in. Let's push this up. Oh no, don't get ahead of yourself, Ali. Let's get this one up and in over here. That's better. Now we've got some variations in the gold. Doesn't look three-dimensional enough at the moment. So we need to work on the where the kind of what is this called? The bit where the string goes through, the kind of hole in it, that needs to be better. And we definitely need to put some highlights on it. And for that, I am going to use a white Posca pen. Do you think I'm being too picky now? I think I'm getting into picky land, aren't I? This needs an extra shake. Incidentally, with Posca pens, you don't always need to prime them again. Sometimes you just need to shake them up a little bit more to reinvigorate the colour. So I'm right on the dotting part of highlights now, and using my finger to create, to sort of slightly lessen the highlight. We've got a little bit of colour. If I had, bucket loads of time, I might work on this more. Where else do I need a highlight? I think I need a highlight sort of around the edge a little bit more. Is it going to look any more or less like a bauble if I spend hours on it? No, of course it's not. So we'll stop faffing about with it in a minute. Let's get, I know, I've just seen another issue with it. It's because all those lines end up in the same place and it needs a bit of a curve on it. So let's get that kind of curve in, that's better. Fuzz those out a little bit. And there's a couple more things I want to do to this, but I do want to take some of my crimson acrylic paint and pull those dark marks down into the rest of the bauble so that it's got a cast shadow, so it really looks like it's sitting on the top. That's better. Just fuzzing that out a little bit into the red. That's getting there. I think they're a bit long. Let's shorten them a little bit. Do you think I'm faffing now, everybody? I'm also loving the fact that you're all chatting to each other. That's awesome. If you're watching this live via Facebook, then we have quite a little community of people that haven't necessarily met, but definitely know each other, which is just lovely, isn't it? Now I'm going to make my string black. It probably should be gold, but I think if I make it gold, it's going to interfere wildly with the other things that are going on. And to create the string, I'm going to use a little kind of spiraling motion, because if I make it a straight line, it's not going to look like it has any sort of thickness at all. Okay, if I do a little kind of twirl as it comes down, then it's going to have a little bit of solidity. And I'm going to run that string right up into the dark part of the border, so it looks like that's where it's hanging from. So let's bring that shape all the way down to the bottom, and we'll just finish off the top of the cap with a small line so that you can see where it ends. Yes, I think I need to stop. There are a few things that probably need a little bit of an extra tweak, if I'm honest, but for the most part, let's zoom out a little bit further so that you can see all of it. For the most part, that is my Royal Opera House inspired Christmas bauble, where we took the colour palette from the Royal Opera House, we took the gold and this lovely blue from the ceiling. We talked about Christmas decorations and trying to kind of bring that together. I have to say, I do love the gold in the background. This is definitely something that I need to explore in the future. What a delightful thing to be painting on. And who knew that the caps of baubles could be so tricky to paint? Now, I've just got a few goodbyes to say before we end this live broadcast, so just bear with me for a moment. Thank you ever so much for joining me. This has been the last Technique Tuesday of 2021. I wanted to thank all of you ever so much for all of your support while we have done these broadcasts. It has meant the world, and I have a feeling over the next few weeks it's going to be more important than ever to keep in touch to make sure that we all stay safe. Now, with that in mind, I want to just remind you about my Christmas Day broadcast. So this is where I will be broadcasting live on the SAA's Facebook page. So it's not necessarily going to be on this Facebook page. It's going to be over on the SAA's. So you need to search for the SAA. So that's a circular black logo with SAA in white on it. If you have a look through their events, you will find it. And this is for anybody on the 25th who you might feel a little bit overwhelmed by the day. You might be feeling a little bit on your own. We will be here for you. That will be at 9 o'clock in the morning, slightly earlier than Technique Tuesday normally is, but 9 a.m. on the 25th, I will be coming to you live from the studio with a very special project. One that's been designed for you to follow along no matter what your painting skill. So it's going to be quite simple. We'll have a chat, we'll have a catch up. Do feel free to comment, do feel free to let me know where you are in the world, and we will just reach out to each other on that day to make sure that we're all okay and that we're all looking after each other. Now, like I said, thank you ever so much for the last year's worth of tuning in and joining me for Technique Tuesday. I really appreciate it. It's been great to get to know you better. I will return on the 11th of January. I will be back with brand new Technique Tuesdays and a lot of big news coming. Big news to do with projects that I'm involved with in 2022. But I can see all your comments coming in. Thank you ever so much. It means the world to me. It really does mean the world to me that you take the time to watch these broadcasts. But until I see you either on the 25th or into the new year, please take lots of care of yourselves, won't you? Have a very safe and very happy holiday time. Keep painting, because no matter what else, keep painting, look after yourselves, and I will see you very soon. Bye everybody.